one of the things about the city of Onkaparinga, it is so large that we have about 9 major rivers and or creeks that start in our council area and end in our council area. So which means we can have the capacity to do some pretty amazing things about water management and stormwater management. So I'm sure that's all he was going to say about that. Okay, so this comment is probably historical in that originally, if you go back to your 60,000 years ago, probably what happened in this area is that there was a range of areas that collected water and cleaned them before it finally got to the Washpool. That's changed dramatically because of housing, because of roads, because of farmers doing wonderful things. And I have to bow my head because I'm one of them. But I think the important thing is that primarily what used to happen across that whole region was that it was very thin and very sheeted water and not major dams holding water for large periods. And we've tried to change that, or have changed that because of the way that we've allowed housing through our region. Thank you very much for that, a graph. Oh, I know what this is doing. This is talking about average rainfall, driest years and wettest years. And look, he would have some really intelligent things to say about this. All I will say is that it is very variable. So whatever we do in terms of stormwater management has to take into account the huge variation that we see year by year and the obvious impacts that we're feeling now. I don't know about you, my crepe myrtles are flowering for the second time. They can't get it. They don't understand the seasons at all. So things are really changing. And I guess what that slide is probably trying to say is that we need to be really flexible in whatever management plan we put into place. And also, you would be very familiar with the way that early settlers decided to manage their stormwater, and everybody who is anybody knows where that photo is and why it's there. I mean, the farmer, a single farmer, the history goes, decided to put a little furrow on his paddock to get rid of a bit of stormwater, and lo and behold, then you have this amazing crevice that now, council in their wisdom, I think, have tried to adopt some good practices at the far end of that. So, and I think that's working extremely well. Went down the other day to the beach when water was finally coming out of the wetlands onto the beach. It wasn't scouring like it used to do, and it was actually quite clean. So I think that is working, but there's a whole lot of added activities that you have to do back up the top of the catchment. I think you used the term, you know, ranges to river or river to whatever you said. It sounded terrific. That's right. But I think if we have to, in a stormwater management plan for that whole catchment, we have to think about what we do right at the top and all the way through. So he's said a lot of other lovely things there, but I'll just stick to that one. And then I guess that's just adding to that in terms of, you know, if you don't have trees on the top of the hills, obviously more runs off quickly. If you have very cleared lots and lots of paths and stormwater drains that collect water quickly, obviously the speed of water that hits the beach is obviously going to be faster. So it causes much more erosion. So what we've got to do in a stormwater management plan is take account of all of that and make sure that every action has something in it that does something about those things. He's used the word mining of sand. I think what he's meaning is that because of the different wave actions and the different ways that things are moved, there's somebody nodding in the back row, so he obviously is a hydrologist, good boy. So I'm saying the right things, terrific. That movement of those rocks though, and just recently went down to Sellex for a walk with my granddaughter, and I never seen the beach so rocky. After those storms, and you can imagine if that activity is happening right the way along the coastline, then it has a mining activity, I guess, for those rocks, which then has an underlying attempt to really mess up what is hopefully a nice, solid, safe beach. Okay, the stormwater management plan, and we've heard as one of the actions from one of the plans is that we need to have an overarching stormwater management plan. That's it underway. You saw the catchment that he put on there. It has to be done. Unfortunately, there are rules in the world, whether we like them or not, and there is a thing called a Stormwater Management Authority. I am a member of that authority. We have rules. We have lots of lovely rules, and so your management plan, your stormwater management plan, to get funding from the Stormwater Management Authority, you have to abide by the guidelines of the Stormwater Management Authority's planning process. So it has to be according to that. And I guess it has to be also based on a whole lot of stuff about what's good for the environment, what's good for water quality, all of those other interesting things that happen. And also, most importantly, how do we stop people from flooding? It considers the Washpool as the major receiving of water process in that whole catchment management plan. What's that mean? What does that mean?
It means that
I'm panicking.
It means that you've got maybe 5 minutes.
Okay, beautiful. I don't know how many slides I've got, so that's going to be interesting. And it acknowledges all of the work that's happened before. So, and that's been, I think, I don't know who spoke this morning, but I'm pretty sure that you would have had a lot of background information this morning about previous work that's happened with Blue Lagoon. I think I've been around long enough to know some of the trials and tribulations of the work that happened there, and the previous 2 reports, which Tony gave quite a bit of detail on. The floodplain mapping, so we've done mapping of the floodplain, has shown there's 117 properties that are prone to a 1 in 100 year flood, and about 100 properties that will be at risk at the 1 in 20 year event. So when you know that stuff, that's where liability comes in. So once a council knows that stuff, councils then have not much choice but to then start to do something about their stormwater management to make sure that those sorts of flooding events don't happen. And modelling, well, you can do that. Okay, so, and this is a picture of Silver Sands floodplain mapping, and for those of you who can't see this, the light blue would be about 0.1 of a metre underwater to the far extent, which is the purple, which I can't, little bits in there. Can't really see any other purple. We're about, beg your pardon? Where the Aldinga word is.
Just north of Norman Road.
Oh, here? Yes, you're seeing that as purple, you're quite right, yep. That's over 5 metres, and so all the colours in between, probably the one that is the majority of the colour is maybe the yellow, and that's 0.5 metre to a metre of water. And so you can see how the 100 properties or the 117 properties have been identified because they're sitting into that wet area. And this is a proposal that is part of the Stormwater Management Plan to create a levee system. The levee system might be 0.5 metre around the housing area. That's, I think, going to be controversial, and I think we're probably going to have a lot of consultation and a lot of discussion about that. And it also talks about, and Tony did mention that, changing the weir and changing the way the weir happens and the height of the weir. So there are some pretty major things to be consulted on, I think, as part of that plan. Okay, these are just, from what I can see, just things that would need to be considered as part of the discussion around what that infrastructure looks like. Oh my goodness, now it's talking about, okay, I think all this is really doing is talking about what the catchment issues are, and I probably babbled on a bit about those anyway. So the environmental issues, the groundwater. Now, what we've done in the past is we've created already the Cox Road sedimentation basin, so hopefully there are some things that have been happening that are starting to already improve the water quality, and definitely the Hart Road wetland, which is an absolutely incredible place, and birds love that too, by the way. Where to from now? I've got 2 minutes to tell you. The stormwater management process will need to come out to lots of consultation. We need approval from Council, Stormwater Management Authority and NRM. I think that's a long way down the track. I think we're probably going to be in this part here for quite a while. However, knowing that we have flood mapping and knowing that we have houses that are under threat, we can't just now dawdle forever. So I think there's some work to do with that. And then he said thank you and asked if there were any questions. And I will confess that I'm not complete novice at this. My master's was actually in water hydrology, and one of the areas that I actually measured was the wetlands here, which we love to call the Washpool. But I'm not an Andy Thomas. I don't know. I don't have his expertise. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Lorraine.
Thank you.